Hello, my friends. I hope you're doing well. Today is the 18th of March, 2025, and this is your daily update. And this is not going to be only about Syria, but also about the entire Middle East. On this channel, we connect the dots and we give you context so we understand what the hell is going on in the Middle East. First things first, when I studied in Paris in 2009 and 2010, I took master courses in the European affairs, and we studied the European Union basically. I've been told that the European Union is not only about political and economic integration in the European continent, but also this union exports values. They export human rights, democracy, and they spend basically billions of dollars worldwide in order to champion human rights, women's rights, feminism, and so forth. However, today it seems that the European Union has forgotten about its own so-called values. And in this case, they have not only invited the foreign minister of Jolani to Brussels, they also pledged to send $5.8 billion to Syria. They say this will support Syria at a crucial time of transition and address the dire needs on the ground. The EU in the past years imposed draconian sanctions on the Syrian economy, saying that this is because of the human rights record in Syria, right? There is a dictator, there is a butcher, there is a tyrant in Syria. So how can the EU send money to help the Syrians under the Assad regime, right? But the Assad regime is gone, and we were told that the replacement will be democratic, but what we got is Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, who is the leader and the founder of the Al-Qaeda offshoot in Syria. They put some makeup on him, they changed his clothing, he even wears tie, because the tie is European, right? So he's sending signals to the outside world that I'm now modernized and I'm a reformed rebel leader, and this is how the mainstream media sold this false narrative to the masses all around the world. So since the EU claimed that under Assad it was a dictatorship and he was killing his own people, then they have to be consistent in their policy and at least not to invite the foreign minister of Jolani only few days after Jolani himself sent his brutal gangs to the coastal cities and murdered thousands of Syrians because they were born in the wrong religion, or they have a different ethnic background. That was the context. So the intention and the intent of committing genocide was there. However, it seems that the EU doesn't really care about the lives of the Syrians, and if that was the case, they should have at least retracted the invitation to Ahmed Shibani, or the foreign minister of Jolani, who himself went to the conference, and instead of at least explaining that Syria is in a dire situation and there has been some killings happening and he vows accountability, etc., he basically gave a speech, a 10-minute speech, and there is a segment in which he says that all these killings in Syria, 1 million people died in Syria. This is what he says, although the numbers are around 500,000, but he says 1 million Syrians died because of a quote, a minority rule. So he didn't even address the massacres. He blamed the minority rule. He means that the Alawite and the Christians, according to his interpretation of this war, he believes that the Christians and the Alawites were in charge and they were in the Assad regime, and they are the ones to be blamed for all the killings that happened in Syria. And this is absurd. Syria was a political authoritarianism under Assad, and it was not sectarian authoritarianism or sectarian theocracy. What he is basically describing is the current Jolani regime. It is a minority rule because those people belong to the Takfiri ideology within many teachings that came after the death of Prophet Muhammad, and they believe in the teachings of Ibn Taymiyyah, they believe in Takfirism, and they believe that if you are different from them, and you didn't convert, then you can get killed or you will be killed. This is what they believe in. And he went to the EU, he went to Brussels, and he basically blamed a minority rule for all the killings that happened instead of at least saying that there has been killings, and he vows, or his regime vows, accountability for those who committed these crimes. And he didn't even do that because he was sure that the European leaders will not even bring this topic during the discussions. So they gave him this pushy treatment, and they are supporting him. And one of the German officials who was there, basically he says that he will help Syria with the World Bank and the IMF to receive the proper loans and cooperation and this and that. And this is the financial assassination of Syria. Like, even if in the future the Syrians manage somehow to get rid of Jolani, then whoever comes next, even he or she was patriotic and he wants to establish a nation state once again, he or she will not be able to do that because Syria will be in a forever debt for the future. And just for a context, before 2011, so before the start of the war, Syria had zero foreign debt to the outside world. Zero, null. No debt to the outside world. It was self-sufficient, it had its own food, it had its own oil. So Syria has enough resources to rebuild itself. They don't need these loans. If the Europeans and the Americans are genuine in helping the Syrian people, they could just leave the oil fields and give the Syrians back their own natural resources. They will not do that. They will keep Syria subjugated and in a big debt by giving them these loans and these billions that they're sending with, of course, political conditions. Now, in this case, I want to link what is happening in Syria with Yemen and with Palestine in Gaza, because all are interconnected at the current moment. Why do they need Jolani still? They need Jolani in Syria, and how can Jolani persuade and convince the US to give him a legitimacy? So we will link this now with the Gaza Strip and with Yemen. Now, first things first, I believe that this American bombing or American strikes against Yemen is not a coincidence, and this comes in the context of Israel's closure of the food routes or the food supplies and the medical supplies to the Palestinians there, because they tried after this ceasefire agreement, so-called ceasefire agreement, to convince Egypt, Jordan, and other Arabic countries to receive the Palestinians, and their demand was rejected, right? But now they wanted to choke the Palestinians even further so that the Palestinians say, in Arabic we say, khalas, we cannot do it. You cannot do this any longer. We have had enough. For 1 year and 2 months or 14 months, we have been bombed and killed, and we don't want to live this any longer. If that is the case, we want to leave, right? They want them to feel this way. So they're bombing Gaza relentlessly, and they have killed hundreds, probably over 400 Palestinian civilians in this case. So they create these psychological conditions in the Gaza Strip at the current moment. And the only player in the region which is participating actively in acts of hostilities against the US or Israel in order to stop this project of the US and Israel in Gaza is Yemen. Therefore, the bombing campaign restarted against Yemen. And from the perspective of the US, they think that they can make a difference at the current moment. Will they do it? I don't think so. I don't think that the Americans are capable to destroy Yemen militarily and kill or destroy the will of the government, the de facto government, what they call an Ansarullah or Houthi government in Yemen. So at the same time, the US and Israel are threatening Iran. So Iran is also getting ready for war. So I think that after coming individually after every player in the axis of resistance, or what used to be called axis of resistance, like in destroying Gaza Strip completely, decimating it completely, decapitating Hezbollah, localizing it inside the Lebanese borders, and turning the Lebanese government, they installed a new government, and it is hostile to Hezbollah. And at the same time, they have this Nusra Qaeda terrorists belonging to Jolani. They're attacking Lebanon from the eastern borders. So they're basically turning them against Hezbollah as well, so that there would be an infighting between this Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah inside Lebanese territory. So they're doing everything in their capacity in order to destroy this resistance against the US hegemony in the region. And accordingly, they're attacking Yemen as well. And I think if Yemen, I'm just saying for an argument's sake, if Yemen loses this war, next is Iran, for sure. There is no doubt about that. So the Americans are trying to establish an absolute hegemony over the Middle East or West Asia by destroying every player in this axis of resistance. So since I mentioned these Jolani and Al-Qaeda gangs and how they're attacking Lebanon, they're also probably going to play another role in this context of this conflict in the region. So Jolani, until this moment, he didn't receive, let's say, public support or endorsement from the United States, and he didn't receive much of a legitimacy from the United States, although he doesn't need that, but America is a superpower, so he might need it on the long run. So how could Jolani present his credentials to the United States, or how can Jolani persuade and convince the United States to accept his rule long term? Well, the answer could be in Palestine, in Gaza. So this is an article published on CBS News. The title says, US and Israel interested in Sudan, Somalia, and Syria for resettlement of Gazans. This is sources say. The Trump administration and Israel approached the governments of Sudan and Somalia and have also been interested in Syria as potential places to resettle Palestinians from Gaza, according to 3 sources familiar with the efforts. The idea of Palestinian resettlement in another country is one of the several options the Trump team is chewing over as part of the US president's larger goal of ending Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza and rebuilding the devastated Palestinian enclave. A combination of Israeli and US officials communicated to Sudan and Somalia, 2 diplomatic sources confirmed to CBS News. Senior far-right Israeli government officials have already been calling for Palestinians to migrate from the enclave. Trump's remarks have only emboldened Israel to reach out to other countries to explore opportunities for Palestinian resettlement, one source said. 3 sources familiar with Trump's idea of resettling Gazans to another country told CBS News that his administration and Israel have also been interested in Syria. One source familiar with the Trump administration's Middle East policy said that the Trump administration has attempted outreach to Syria's new interim government via a third-party interlocutor, probably that is Jordan. Another source from the region told CBS News, or Qatar, that Syria's government had been approached, but it was unclear whether there had been any response from Syria to the outreach. So this could be the way or the exit for Abu Muhammad Jolani to normalize himself in the United States and gain legitimacy in the eyes of the US administration. And some people are telling me this is an impossible thing. What can happen to the Palestinians? And then they could be probably radicalized in Syria and go to, under Jolani, and they could wage a war from the southern Syria against the Golan Heights. And I would say that's not going to happen, because first things first, if it happens, according to many sources, that they're trying to settle them, basically, if Jolani accepts or this project succeeds, then they're talking about Raqqa, they're talking about Deir Zor. So Raqqa is in northeast Syria, Deir Zor is in East Syria, so these places, it's far away, 500-600 kilometers away from the Israeli borders. So this is where they're trying to settle them. And this will, of course, change the demographics of Syria. Imagine 2 million new people are coming to your country, just like it happened after the invasion of Iraq. We had hundreds of thousands of new Iraqis coming to our country, and Lebanese before that. So this will definitely change the demographics of the country. And this could also mean that ethnic and religious minorities would feel even less of a minority in the country. And remember, those are not like aliens or visitors from outside the Middle East. They are indigenous people, and they've been living there for centuries. In this case, I think that even if the United States accepts to give legitimacy or some sort of legitimacy to Jolani, if this project succeeds, I think that the project of balkanization of Syria is of top priority for Israel. So Trump will try to get both, resettle the Palestinians in Syria and at the same time balkanize the country. And balkanize the country means that Christians and the Alawites probably going to have a mini-state in the coastal region, and the Druze would get the Sweda. The south, Daraa, Quneitra, will be completely demilitarized by Israel. The Kurds in the east, protected by the US. So it's just like it turns into Banana Republic. So I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm a little bit pessimistic about this, and I don't see that there is any political or military force inside Syria or even in the regional countries, Iran, Russia, etc. No, nobody is showing any interest or will to change the situation. The United States is cooperating with Russia in the coast, definitely. The United States is cooperating with Israel in the south, and the United States has already its grip over the Kurds in the east. So, in this case, what's going to happen? Well, I'm talking to Syrians inside Syria every day. I'm talking to Syrians outside Syria who have parents inside the country, and they're all telling me the same thing. Those people are belonging to these minority groups, and they're all telling me the same things. The only thing we care about is to stop the killing. Stop the killing. If it means mini state, if it needs a big state, if it needs below state, whatever, they don't really care. And I'm delivering you what I am hearing from Syrians. So if other people tell you otherwise, if people tell you that no, Syrians are ready to resist, do this and that, they're not telling you the truth. I'm just being blatantly honest with you. So this was today's update on Syriana Analysis, update from the Middle East. If you like such content, I would appreciate it if you hit the like button, subscribe to Syriana Analysis. We are only 4,000 subscribers away from hitting the 100K goal. I would be very happy that if you can help me to reach that goal. And I will see you again tomorrow on the 19th of March on Thursday. Tomorrow is Wednesday, basically, right? Yeah, tomorrow is Wednesday. Again, I'm going to post another update for you. Peace be upon you, upon your families. Salam.